May is a great time of year to be on the water here in the UP. I spent some time on a Schoolcraft County lake with Scott Cormier in search of pre-spawn largemouth.
Just hiding up underneath that pontoon boat this morning, probably getting ready to go up to spawn.
I spent the cold, windy opening day on Lake Gogebic with Pro Fisherman Mark Martin.
Out here trolling on Lake Gogebic here today. Figured we'll try something a little different. These are stinger spoons. There we go. Watermelon stinger right there.
9 million acres of forest, 1,700 miles of continuous shoreline, 4,300 lakes, 12,000 miles of streams, more than 300 waterfalls, 15 counties, 2 time zones, and 1 area code. Welcome to the Upper Peninsula. Welcome to 906 Outdoors. 906 Outdoors is brought to you by Cooking Wild Seasonings. Make it fresh, make it yours. I hooked up with Scott Cormier for a gorgeous May day on the water. The sun was out and the lake was perfect. The boat wasn't too bad either. We were on the hunt for early season largemouth.
There we go. Well, today we're starting off on a beautiful Schoolcraft County lake. Nice little UP largemouth to start the morning. Weekend before Memorial Day. So everybody's starting to head up here to the North Woods and put their docks in on the lake and make it all nice and pretty. We're actually out here this morning trying to find some pre-spawn largemouth, one of the larger inland lakes in the UP. We're just seeing if these fish are starting to come up shallow a little bit. Pretty healthy fish, just a pretty fish. Water temp's still pretty low. We had a really cool night last night. So we're just kind of fan casting, trying to find some of these hard targets and see if we can get some fish that are starting to move up shallow. Hopefully put on a pretty good show today. We'll see. Just a little guy out here cruising. Well, these fish are so healthy. All the different year classes we've seen. So we kind of want to get their attention. So this is called caffeine shad siren color. It's actually one of the best smallmouth colors known to man. I mean, smallmouth love these, especially down on Beta Knock and everything, but this will really get their attention, hopefully. You just had to throw that thing that wakes them up. Up here on this little shallow flat, just starting to spawn. Such healthy fish, such pretty fish. Let's get him back. Little guy up by the pontoon boat. Right where he was supposed to be, up by the pontoon boat. Getting ready to go do his thing. I'm back. Right where he's supposed to be. He read the book.
Off the bed under the dog. Under the dog.
He's marked up a little bit. Just hiding up underneath that pontoon boat this morning, probably getting ready to go up to spawn. You can tell he hasn't even bloodied up his fins yet, so he's not even close to spawning yet. Water's still about 53 degrees here, so still pretty cool. Let's get it back in. Just blind casting that little Senko out in front of the boat. You know, that's what's nice about this lake. It's so healthy. There's so many different year classes. You figure we've probably caught four different year classes already. And that's probably only a 12-inch fish, but in a few years he's going to be pretty. I mean, he's just perfect fish. Let's get him back.
906 Outdoors is brought to you in part by Christ, your Northwoods neighborhood store.
We're in that clear water. Yeah, I threw it in there and she came from the front of the pontoon boat, moved a lot of water to go grab that. But that's a classic spot for a bass to hang up, because if you look, this is the first dock structure before this huge bay that goes back in here. So it's really the first piece of hard cover that these fish are gonna kind of run into before they come in. So they'll stop here and set up, then move their way back to spawn. So perfect spot for a fish. Fish that are just about legal. Tell you what, taking advantage of Michigan's catch and release season this time of year, weekend before Memorial Day, the crowds aren't out. There's a bunch of walleye fishermen and bluegill fishermen up here, but we'll let this little guy go. See if he's got a friend up there too. Well, right now what we're trying to find is some of these fish that are going to go up in stage to go up to spawn. This is one of the largest spawning bays on this lake. You'll see it's a pretty big, large expanse, and there's actually old reed beds and some old milfoil beds in here, but there's actually pieces of hard cover. There's wood, a log or a stump somewhere in here, and what we're looking for are those fish that are staging to come on up onto this flat and spawn. As we saw just a few seconds ago, there was a small fish on a bed already, so they might have started bedding on that last full moon last week. Here you go, honey. Come here. Come here. There we go. Look at that one. That's what we came for. Just what we needed. Put her back. So if you guys are into wacky rigging like I am, especially if we're going to be throwing some stuff around these docks, VMC's come up with a really cool system so you don't lose as much tackle. So you have this O-ring here. This spreads it, put your worm on there, and then slide it up on the worm. So now you have it about in the center of the worms where you want it. Using a VMC wide gap, you go right underneath it. Instead of tearing up your plastic on your bait all the time, you can wacky rig it like that. Spring is a great time to be on the water in the UP. Right now, it's right before Memorial Day. Fish are starting to move into these shallow bays. Look, there's one with them. We've been catching fish deep, moving shallow. They're starting to stage to come up and spawn. After the spawn, they're gonna start working their way back out to the main lake. So all these old drop-offs, big outside weed lines, some hard cover such as boat docks and stuff, are all places to look at. So what we've done today is we did a lot of fishing with a lot of different lures. We were throwing some stuff around docks. I was throwing jigs, some creature baits. Hit it 3 times. We're throwing some floating worms, a bunch of different things up shallow. But as we started working deep, we started working with some chatter baits, some spinner baits, even throwing a couple jerk baits and crank baits in there too to get some of those fish a little bit more active that are a little bit more deep.
906 Outdoors is brought to you in part by Blades Bait and Tackle, your year-round connection to fishing bait enoch. Lake Gogebic, the Upper Peninsula's largest inland lake. It's 39 degrees. Clouds have sealed out the sun's light. There's a heavy wind out of the northeast, and the water is choppy and rough. If you're looking for a beautiful spring day in the middle of May, you'd be pretty disappointed. But if you're a walleye fisherman, on opening day of the season, the conditions are perfect. I met up with Walleye Pro Mark Martin and local fisherman Dean Carley on the dock at daybreak for a day on Lake Gogebic, experimenting with spoon-fed walleyes.
Yeah, we're out here trolling on Lake Gogebic here today. Figured we'll try something a little different. These are stinger spoons, and got a ball bearing swivel and a cross lock on there, and then a little ways up I have another cross lock with a ball bearing swivel and then a egg sinker, or you can put a bullet sinker on. That'll just weight it down just enough that we can get it close to the bottom with about 90 to 110 feet of line out. And then we're putting them on little inline planer boards, the TX 12s by Church. And then we got the TX 007 too, the little stern planer that we're putting out also. Trying to maximize as many rods as we can here today. Small eye, at least it's a fish. They're here and they like spoons, I guess. Looks like Dean picked out the good colors, and a lot of times the most productive ones are, there you go, are the small ones as far as the return on eggs that you're gonna get. We were trolling about 1.8 to 2 miles an hour, which is fairly quick for this time of year. Looks like the males are gonna be aggressive today and take things that are going fairly quick. They want the spoons. Only thing we need now is getting to a little bigger size ones. There we go. Watermelon stinger right there. We're gonna make a move right now and see if we can locate some bigger ones like this, like maybe that big. Fun driving the boat, reeling fish in. Yeah, it looks like it might make it. 15 and a half. Another eater size. But they're all coming on the scatter wrap. They want that balsa minnow with that erratic action. Yeah, he might make 15. The Mother Nature is kind of being rough today on everything. It wants to take me into shore if I don't look, or wants to turn me sideways. It might be a 15-incher. You got to maintain a speed out here, you know, under 2 miles an hour. And I got sea anchors out, and I got all sorts of control methods, but you still got to drive. Look at that, 15 and a half inches right there. Something for supper and the hot oil tonight. Some of the things that, you know, early season, cold weather, especially this year, a lot of times you have to fish slow. You know, I'd love to have fished a lot slower than I did today. So you're going into it and you could slow down somewhat, but if you slow down too much, the boat got out of control. Well, I had to pick a happy medium around 2 miles an hour. Yeah, he's a keeper. Yeah, that scatter wrap with a foil gold color and light brown top on it. Yeah, they seem like they always like to hit when I'm going against the waves. Makes it a lot of fun. I was fishing faster than I wanted to fish today, but I'm telling you, if you slow down or are able to slow down, you know, it helps. I slowed down some with sea anchors out and everything. Look for things that are a little different. You know, the mud lines, I fish them out out west on reservoirs, and I fish them in certain rivers. And geez, here at Lake Gogebic, we've seen a mudline. We started fishing it. We caught fish on this mudline here too. So if you see it muddying up, and get out there and fish just inside the mudline or right up on shore where it's creating that mudline. Very good little tips for early season where the fish will be concentrated. Shallow water is going to be some of the places that you're going to want to check out. Deep water, they're going to go to deep water after they get done spawning. They're going to suspend. We caught some fish suspended today, but for the most part, most of them are going to be shallow. Either they're going to spawn or have spawned. The males are going to stick around. The females are going to drop deep, but it's going to take them about another week or so before they are recuperated enough that they're going to be snapping.
Today's show is brought to you in part by Rapid River Knife Works, home of Michigan's largest custom knife factory showroom.
The tackle that we were using today, I was using some Abu Garcia line counters. I had Fenwicks. I had long rods, 11 footers. They're so long, there's no line in the water, so they don't have a tendency to overlap each other very often. I love using jigs if I can, using 7 foot 6 inch Fenwicks all the way down to 6'6" Fenwicks, medium lights. I love medium lights. They're some of the best rods for jig and fire line and nanofill line. I can't fish without it anymore. I can feel the rocks, I can feel the weeds, I can feel a light bite, and I use flame green when I'm doing it so I can watch my line. And when I'm pitching it, I'll just see a little tick of the line. A lot of times I won't even feel it, but I know the jig didn't do it itself, so I set the hook. If I didn't have colored line, I couldn't see that hit very well, and I probably wouldn't feel it because it's usually a bow in the line. The other thing, by using the new super lines when you're pitching jigs or casting them in early season, there's wind like right now. Well, if you pitch a jig to a certain spot and you got line that the wind can catch, it's going to blow it off that spot and take it into a different area where you don't want to. Maybe it's snag filled where it's going to take your jig into. So having that thinner diameter super line, you'll be able to pitch your jig into rocks and little crevices that the jig is going to fall right there. You're going to have maybe a little bow with this type of wind today, but if you had monofilament, you'd have a big bow and it'd grab it and pull it right out of the area where you're trying to fish.
Yeah, those scatter rats have never let us down out here yet, have they?
Using 1/8 ounce jigs, and if people can't feel 1/8 ounce jigs, don't be afraid to go to bigger and bigger jigs until you feel confident. Just because a lot of people say, I can use a 16th ounce jig, which I could in here, but a lot of people couldn't. The lighter you can go, the easier the fish can suck it in, and you're going to get a better hook set on the fish. But if you can't feel what you're doing, a lot of times you're going to be missing fish. You're going to be not feeling the right bottom content. You're not going to be able to lift and drop it because you're not going to be able to tell when it touches bottom. So use a jig that you're comfortable with.
Not quite like Dean's, but on another scatter wrap too.
Make sure you have a wide variety of jigs, twister tails, crankbaits, and all colors and sizes.
About a 17 incher or so. But this one's melting here. It's still spawning. But we went from using stinger spoons, which we were catching fish pretty consistent, and we wanted to see if we could catch some bigger walleyes. And we went to stick baits and scatter wraps especially, and started picking up some keepers now. So we got a 21 1/4 and about a 17 incher or so. So we'll get everything back in the water and have at it.
And make sure that when you're out fishing, pay attention to what color. Maybe your buddy's using a chartreuse and you're using an orange, or who's catching and who's getting the most bites. You start looking at
the size jig, you start looking at the color. If you also want to start trolling, you might want to try those same colors that you were catching them on jigs and implement them into your crankbaits. What happened today, normally you'd have fish going all the way along these shorelines, and they'd be biting people on shore, be catching them. They're catching a few fish, but a lot of them are small, a smaller fish, undersized fish. Some have spawned and some haven't spawned, as we've seen from the catch today. So you have pre-spawn, you got post-spawn fish all mixing it up right here in these shallows on these reefs, and the ones that went up the creeks and rivers haven't quite come back to the lake yet. I don't think found fish along a rocky shoreline that had good fish, and the good fish were, you had to stay on them. You just couldn't keep going and expect to catch more good fish and more good fish. The good fish were located in an area, and the weather here has, pooled these fish in certain areas because, the males are sticking around where the females have to come up and spawn on these reefs and rocks. So they're taking advantage of the situation, and the females, they like certain areas and certain rocks to spawn on. And after they spawn, then they spread out. So what we came out here for, to try to catch some nicer ones and getting them all on scatter wraps now. Get yourself some scatter wraps, some jigs, minnows. You get some Berkeley Gulp to put on there, sweeten it up a little bit. Try spoons, and maybe tomorrow if I was going to fish out here, maybe spoons would be the way to go, but today the Rapala scatter wraps, definitely fantastic today.
Feel free to join us on Facebook or visit us at 906outdoors.com. Thanks for watching, and we invite you to join us next week for another adventure right here on 906 Outdoors.